On April 7, 1945, the largest battleship ever built, a vessel bearing Japan's ancient name, sailed towards certain destruction in the most futile naval mission of World War II. Operation Tengo sent 3,332 men aboard Yamato and nearly 7,000 total sailors on a one-way suicide run to Okinawa, where American carrier aircraft would annihilate them in under 2 hours. Only 269 Yamato crewmen survived. This is the story of that mission. By spring 1945, Imperial Japan was being systematically destroyed. The trajectory of defeat was unmistakable. The nation had lost the Philippines, Iwo Jima, and control of the skies over its own cities. American B-29s conducted devastating firebombing raids. The March 9th to 10th Tokyo attack killed 80,000 to 130,000 people in a single night, the deadliest air raid in history. The Imperial Japanese Navy existed only on paper. It had lost 334 warships and 300,386 officers and men since Pearl Harbor. Critically, Japan had run out of trained pilots. Most had perished in the Great Marianas Turkey Shoot of June 1944 and subsequent battles. Fuel reserves were nearly exhausted. The combined fleet was reduced to a handful of ships huddled at Kure, serving as stationary anti-aircraft platforms rather than a fighting navy. The Battle of Okinawa began on April 1, 1945, when over 60,000 American troops stormed ashore in the largest amphibious operation of the Pacific War. More than 1,600 ships and 350,000 naval personnel supported the invasion. Okinawa, just 340 miles from the Japanese home islands, would provide the staging base for the final invasion of Japan itself. Lieutenant General Ushijima Mitsuru commanded approximately 100,000 Japanese defenders dug into 60 miles of tunnels and fortifications. His strategy: make the Americans pay so dearly they would negotiate rather than demand unconditional surrender. Japan's response to the Okinawa invasion relied on Operation Kikusui, massed kamikaze attacks. 10 waves of suicide planes would crash into American ships throughout April and May, eventually sinking 31 vessels and damaging 368 others. It was in this context of institutionalized suicide that the Navy's final contribution was conceived. Yamato displaced 72,800 tons fully loaded, 40% larger than any American or German battleship. She stretched 863 feet long with a beam of 127 feet, so wide the vessel couldn't fit through the Panama Canal. Her draft of 34 feet forced Japanese naval bases to be dredged to accommodate her. The ship's main armament was unprecedented: 9 18.1-inch Type 94 naval guns, the largest ever mounted on a warship. Each gun weighed 147 tons and fired shells weighing 3,220 pounds to a range of 26 miles. A single turret housing 3 of these guns weighed more than an entire 1930s destroyer. Yamato's armor was equally excessive. Her 16-inch belt armor was angled at 20 degrees for additional protection. Turret faces measured 25.6 inches thick, impervious to any battleship weapon ever built. Deck armor reached 9 inches, designed to resist plunging fire and bombs. By 1945, anti-aircraft refits had added 162 25mm guns bristling across her superstructure. Yamato was built at Kure Naval Arsenal from November 1937 to December 1941, commissioned just 9 days after Pearl Harbor. The construction involved unprecedented security measures. Sisal curtains concealed the shipyard, houses overlooking the dock had windows blocked, workers signed non-disclosure agreements monitored by military police, and official documents listed fake specifications. American intelligence never learned Yamato's true dimensions until after the war. Even in July 1945, 4 months after she sank, U.S. estimates listed 16-inch guns rather than the actual 18.1-inch weapons. Sister ship Musashi was built at Nagasaki with similar secrecy. A third hull, Shinano, was converted mid-construction into an aircraft carrier after Midway, only to be sunk by submarine USS Archerfish just 10 days after commissioning. Japanese sailors mockingly called Yamato Hotel Yamato for her luxurious accommodations and conspicuous absence from combat. The ship featured air-conditioned quarters, refrigerated kitchens, ice cream machines, a bathhouse, and actual beds rather than hammocks. Officers dined to live military band music while Admiral Yamamoto allegedly gained weight aboard. A sardonic proverb circulated: "The world's three most useless things are China's Great Wall, the Egyptian pyramids, and battleship Yamato." The ship spent most of 1942 to 1943 at anchor at Truk, too valuable to risk. At Midway, Yamato served as Yamamoto's floating headquarters but trailed 300 miles behind the carriers and never fired a shot. At the Philippine Sea, she played no combat role. Only at Leyte Gulf in October 1944 did Yamato finally engage enemy warships, briefly attacking American escort carriers and destroyers in the Battle off Samar before retreating. That single engagement represented the only time her main batteries fired at enemy ships in nearly 4 years of war. The name was no accident. Yamato is the ancient poetic name for Japan itself, characters meaning great harmony, referring to Yamato province in Nara Prefecture, considered the birthplace of Japanese civilization and the Imperial dynasty. Chief of Operations Shigeru Fukudome described the ships as symbols of naval power that provided to officers and men alike a profound sense of confidence in their navy. The vessel bearing Japan's name could not be lost. This paradox made Yamato a prisoner of her own symbolism, kept in port to preserve national morale, rendered strategically useless by the weight of what she represented. In March 1945, military leaders briefed Emperor Hirohito on Japan's response to the expected American invasion of Okinawa. They explained the army was preparing extensive air attacks, including mass kamikaze strikes. The emperor turned to Admiral Koshiro Oikawa and asked, "But what about the Navy? What are they doing to assist in defending Okinawa? Have we no more ships?" With a single question, the fate of Japan's greatest warship was decided. Admiral Soemu Toyota, commander-in-chief of the combined fleet, drafted the operation plan. His rationale was brutally pragmatic. The Second Fleet needed to be used before fuel supplies dwindled or the fleet was sunk in harbor. Better to sacrifice the fleet gloriously than lose it uselessly to American bombers while tied to the dock. The plan called for Yamato and escorts to attack the American fleet at Okinawa, then beach the battleship between Higashi and Yomitan to serve as an unsinkable gun emplacement. The crew would fire until ammunition was exhausted, then abandon ship and fight on land as infantry until killed. Vice Admiral Seiichi Itō, designated force commander, flatly refused. He called the mission futile and wasteful. When ship captains were briefed on April 5th, it had been kept secret from them. They unanimously rejected the plan. Captain Atsushi Oi, operations officer of the Grand Escort Command, exploded when told the aim was the tradition and the glory of the Navy. "This war is of our nation, and why should the honor of our surface fleet be more respected? Who cares about their glory? Damn fools." Vice Admiral Ryunosuke Kusaka flew from Tokyo on April 5th specifically to convince the commanders. He delivered the decisive argument. The Emperor himself was expecting the Navy to make their best effort. Resistance collapsed. The commanders accepted what they knew was a death sentence. Official orders specified ships would receive only enough fuel to reach Okinawa. However, in secret defiance, Tokuyama Fuel Depot personnel gave Yamato and the other ships almost all remaining fuel in the port. Survivor testimony confirms each ship was filled to capacity. Yahagi alone carried 1,250 tons. This probably changed nothing. Even with full fuel tanks, the distance to Okinawa and back, combined with evasive maneuvering under air attack, would have exhausted supplies. The added fuel perhaps represented a small gesture of humanity from base personnel, or simply the recognition that all remaining fuel would soon be useless anyway. The mission plan acknowledged that very little, if any, air cover could be provided. U.S. intelligence intercepts revealed Yamato would have fighter protection only during limited windows. On April 7th, not a single Japanese aircraft appeared to defend the fleet. The Imperial Army Air Force could muster no opposition. The surface fleet sailed naked beneath American-controlled skies. Yamato carried 3,332 men on her final voyage, including Vice Admiral Ito's staff. The complete task force totaled approximately 6,000 to 7,000 personnel across the battleship, light cruiser Yahagi, and 8 destroyers. Before departure, approximately 80 crew members were ordered off, the sick, infirm, and newly arrived. This included 67 naval cadets from Etajima Naval Academy class number. 74 who had reported aboard just 3 days earlier. Many begged to stay but were refused. The navigation officer invited them to a farewell toast. As he raised his sake cup, it slipped from trembling fingers and shattered on the deck, an omen witnessed by all. About 90% of Yamato's crew were single, many were teenagers. Survivor accounts mention sailors aged 15 to 16 among the casualties. After entering Bungo Channel, the vice captain ordered all hands to the upper deck. Over 2,000 men assembled, faced east, and saluted the Imperial Palace. They sang Kamikaze, the national anthem, and military songs. Then they faced their hometowns for silent farewell prayers. Survivor Naoyoshi Yoshida recalled, "We were all crying as we shook hands with each other on the upper deck, telling each other that the next time we met we'd be bones at the Yasukuni Shrine." On April 5th, Yamato's executive officer ordered the pantry opened. Sake, beer, and imperial provisions were distributed. The party began around 6 p.m. Officers played old 78 RPM records and sang songs. Many men drank to the point of staggering. That night, something unusual happened. The nightly beatings from senior sailors, a brutal Navy tradition, were suspended. Senior crew helped junior sailors clean up instead. Survivor Kazuhiro Fukumoto recalled his astonishment. "People who had never helped us before, our seniors, were helping us, telling us to rest because we were drunk." The crews understood they faced death. Captain Tameichi Hara of Yahagi told his men directly, "Our mission appears suicidal, and it is, but suicide is not the objective. The objective is victory. Once this ship is crippled or sunk, do not hesitate to save yourselves for the next fight. We can commit suicide at any time." Every man was given the opportunity to stay behind. None did. Naoyoshi Yoshida had seen his newborn son for only one night after the baby's birth on March 12th. Now he tried to write farewell letters. "I began writing, 'You can remarry again, but whatever you do, please raise our son to be a good man.' I wrote and tore it up, wrote again and tore it up again, but I couldn't send it knowing how much she would cry." Before leaving for the ship, he told his wife goodbye at the door. After she went inside, he secretly circled the house, looking at it one last time where she couldn't see him, then returned to Yamato. Among the crew was Ensign Kunio Nakatani, an American-born Japanese from Florin, California. His family had been incarcerated at Minidoka and Tule Lake camps during the war. His two younger brothers served in the U.S. Army in Europe while he served aboard Yamato as radio officer. Just before the final voyage, he received a letter from his mother in America, forwarded through Switzerland. "We are fine. Please put your best effort into your duties." Nakatani could translate American radio intercepts but faced contempt from fellow officers because of his American birth. Yoshida later wrote, "I can guess that his death was as splendid as the deaths of his fellows." He died at his post, torn between two nations at war. At 4 p.m. on April 6, 1945, the Surface Special Attack Force departed Tokuyama on the southern coast of Honshu. The task force comprised Yamato, Yahagi, and 8 destroyers, Asashimo, Kamikaze, Isokaze, Kasumi, Suzutsuki, Hatsushimo, Yukikaze, Fuyutsuki. The ships formed a column with Yahagi leading, proceeding through Bungo Strait between Kyushu and Shikoku, then south along the Kyushu coast. The Japanese knew they'd been spotted. USS Threadfin made radar contact at approximately 6:45 p.m. while patrolling near Bungo Strait. At 9 p.m., she radioed the task force location to Submarine Command at Guam. USS Hackleback established contact around 7 p.m. and shadowed through the night, approaching within 13,000 yards of Yamato 3 times. Critically, Threadfin's transmissions were unencrypted. Japanese radio operators intercepted them. The crew of Yamato knew the Americans knew. Yet the ships pressed on. American intelligence had known even earlier. Ultra-signals intercepts had revealed planning for Operation 10 No. 1 on March 26th. Admiral Spruance ordered preparations at 0030 on April 6th, before Yamato even sailed. By morning, the task force had rounded southeastern Kyushu. At 7 a.m., ships formed a defensive ring around Yamato, each vessel 1,500 to 2,000 meters apart, making 20 knots. 8:23 a.m., a Hellcat from USS Essex spotted the Japanese force. Contact report issued. 9 a.m., Destroyer Asashimo developed engine trouble and fell behind the formation. She would never rejoin. 10 a.m. 2 Martin. PBM Mariner flying boats began shadowing. Yamato fired her 18.1-inch guns using San Shiki anti-aircraft shells, projectiles weighing as much as an automobile designed to burst in a cone of shrapnel toward incoming aircraft. They missed. The patrol planes were beyond range. These flying boats would shadow the force for 5 hours, reporting every course change. Weather conditions favored the attackers. Low overcast with cloud ceiling at 1,500 to 3,000 feet, variable visibility, intermittent rain. Japanese fire control directors couldn't track targets through the clouds. Vice Admiral Marc Mitscher commanded Task Force 58 from his flagship USS Bunker Hill. When submarine contact reports arrived, he made a career-defining decision: launch immediately without informing Admiral Spruance until aircraft were already airborne. This was calculated. Admiral Spruance had initially ordered Rear Admiral Morton Deo's surface force, 6 battleships, 7 cruisers, and 21 destroyers, to intercept Yamato. A contingency force of 6 fast battleships, including Iowa, Missouri, and New Jersey, was also assembling. The battleship admirals wanted the glory of the last surface engagement. Mitscher preempted them. He wanted to prove carrier aviation could destroy battleships independently. The aviators would steal the prize from the gun club. 15 carriers launched 386 aircraft against Yamato. Aircraft types included F-6F Hellcat fighters, SB-2C Helldiver dive bombers, and TBF/TBM Avenger torpedo bombers. Of 386 aircraft launched, approximately 227 actually attacked. Some groups became lost in the bad weather. American pilots had learned from sinking Musashi at Leyte Gulf. They would deliberately concentrate torpedo attacks on Yamato's port side to cause asymmetric flooding and accelerate capsizing. Fighters and dive bombers would attack first, distracting anti-aircraft gunners while torpedo bombers made low-altitude runs. Aircraft from Task Group 58.1 arrived first, planes from Bennington, Hornet, and San Jacinto. 12:34 p.m., Yamato opens fire with her main 18.1-inch batteries using Sanshiki shells, completely ineffective. Her nearly 150 anti-aircraft guns blaze away. Each ship fires tracer rounds of different colors to assist gun directors. American pilots notice the guns are not radar-directed and missing with great consistency. 12:37 to 12:46 p.m., 4 Helldivers from Bennington score 2 1,000-pound bomb hits on Yamato's starboard side near the aft 6-inch turret. One bomb blows a 20-foot hole in the weather deck. 14 Helldivers from Hornet add 2 more bomb hits. One destroys the aft secondary fire control tower. Another penetrates the aft 6-inch turret magazine, causing a fire that kills all but one of the turret crew. 12:43 to 12:46 p.m., Avenger torpedo bombers from Hornet strike. 3 or 4 torpedoes hit Yamato's port side, one near the bow, others around the boiler and engine rooms. The ship begins listing 5 to 6 degrees to port. Meanwhile, aircraft from San Jacinto attack the lagging Asashimo. The destroyer is sunk with all 326 hands, the first total loss. 12:46 p.m., a torpedo slams into Yahagi's engine room. The cruiser goes dead in the water. 12:47 p.m., destroyer Kamikaze takes torpedoes amidships and breaks in half. Approximately 100 killed. Counterflooding corrects Yamato's list to 1 degree. Boiler room number 8 is out of action. Speed reduced slightly. A fire burns aft that cannot be extinguished. Aircraft from Task Group 58.3 arrive. Planes from Essex, Bunker Hill, Baton, and Cabot. 3 to 4 more torpedoes hit Yamato's port side, flooding additional boiler and engine rooms. List increases to 15 to 18 degrees. 1 torpedo hits the starboard side. This actually helps by counterflooding, reducing the list to 10 degrees. 13:33 p.m. Captain Jiro Nomura, the executive officer, orders both starboard engine and boiler rooms deliberately flooded to correct the list. Several hundred crewmen drown with no warning. Compartments flood while men are still inside. In a choking voice, Captain Aruga confirms the order. The valves were opened. Seconds later, the violent implosion of seawater snuffed out the life of every man in the flooded engineering rooms. This momentarily corrects the list but reduces speed to 10 to 18 knots. Only one propeller shaft remains operational. No more counter-flooding options exist. Yahagi absorbs approximately 12 bombs and 7 torpedoes total. She lies dead in the water, listing heavily. Aircraft from Task Group 58.4 deliver the killing blows, planes from Intrepid, Yorktown, and Langley. 4 bombs hit Yamato amidships, destroying anti-aircraft positions and blowing large holes in the deck. Near misses buckle hull plating and increase flooding. 1342 to 1417. 3 more torpedoes hit the port side. The fatal hit at frame 211 floods the steering gear room, kills the entire crew, and jams the rudder. Yamato can no longer steer. She's stuck in a wide starboard turn. 1400 p.m. Captain Nomura orders remaining boiler rooms flooded. The list continues increasing. 1402 p.m. Vice Admiral Itō is informed the ship cannot steer and is sinking. He issues his only direct command of the battle. Stop the operation. Turn back after rescuing the men. He shakes hands solemnly with surviving staff officers, then walks into his cabin. He is never seen again. 1405 p.m. Yahagi capsizes and sinks. 446 crew killed. 1406 to 1407 p.m. Order to abandon Yamato given as list becomes critical. At least one more torpedo hits the starboard side. Due to the heavy port list, it strikes the bottom of the hull. 1417 p.m. Additional torpedoes strike. Yamato has now absorbed at least 11 torpedoes and 6 to 8 bombs. 1420 p.m. Yamato capsizes completely, rolling to 120 degrees to port. Power fails. The massive main turrets, each weighing more than a destroyer, fall off the ship. Men in the water are sucked back toward the capsizing hull. Captain Aruga has ordered a sailor to tie him to the compass binnacle. He refuses to leave. A crewman presses 4 biscuits into his hand. He waves goodbye to the few remaining men on the bridge, encouraging them to save themselves. 1423 p.m. Fires ignited by bomb hits reach the forward magazines housing the 18.1-inch shells. The magazines detonate catastrophically. A mushroom cloud rises nearly 20,000 feet into the sky, visible and audible 120 miles away in Kagoshima, Kyushu. The explosion may have knocked down several American aircraft observing the end. When the smoke clears, nothing remains. The great battleship Yamato, pride of the Imperial Navy, has vanished into the sea. Captain Tamechi Hara, treading water after Yahagi's sinking, watched the end. A frightening pillar of fire and white smoke came belching from the battleship, hiding everything. The smoke towered 20,000 feet into the sky, while I watched the smoke gradually lifted, revealing nothing. Hot tears gushed from my eyes and streamed down my cheeks. The toll was catastrophic. Yamato, 3,055 to 3,063 killed, 269 to 280 survivors. Yahagi, 446 killed, 555 survivors. Asashimo, 326 killed, all hands. Kamikaze, approximately 100 killed. Isakaze, 20 killed, scuttled. Kasumi, 17 killed, scuttled. Suzutsuki, 57 killed, survived with bow destroyed. Total Japanese dead, approximately 4,137. 6 ships were lost: Yamato, Yahagi, Asashimo, Kamikaze, Isakaze, and Kasumi. Only 4 destroyers escaped: Yukikaze virtually undamaged, Suzutsuki limping home in reverse with her bow blown off. American losses: 10 aircraft lost, 12 airmen killed. The exchange ratio was approximately 344 to 1 in favor of the Americans. Yamato survivors faced a hellscape. The April sea was cold, causing leg cramps. Heavy fuel oil coated the water, making swimming nearly impossible. Men emerged black from head to toe. Kazuhiro Fukumoto was sucked into a propeller whirlpool. I was drawn into the whirlpool from the propeller. I swallowed a mouthful of seawater. I was losing consciousness, and I think I was just a step away from death. The massive explosion killed many still near the ship, raining steel fragments onto survivors. Several accounts describe American aircraft strafing men in the water. Naoyoshi Yoshida recalled, Then the Americans started to shoot with machine guns at the people who were floating, so we all had to dive under. Destroyers Yukikaze, Fuyutsuki, and Hatsushimo conducted rescue operations. Survivors waited 2 to 4 hours before pickup. Those rescued were so weak from relief that officers at the top of rescue ships slapped them across both cheeks to prevent them from losing consciousness and falling to death. Ishida later reflected, "If we had known they would come for us, many more people would have survived, maybe even 800 to 1,000 men. Many just let go, thinking they wouldn't be rescued." Perhaps the most haunting aspect is what happened below decks. Men too wounded to escape were left in compartments as watertight doors closed. Ishida never forgot. "I went down to give water to 3 or 4 of them. They appeared to me in my dreams later, begging for water. I am still haunted by them in the night, the ones begging for water, the injured, the bleeding. We just had to put them in a room. Then, in order to prevent water from coming in if we had a leak, we had to shut the doors on them to keep them waterproof." The destruction of Yamato conclusively signaled the end of the all-big-gun battleship era of naval warfare. The world's most powerful surface warship had been annihilated in under 2 hours by carrier aircraft, losing 4,137 men while killing just 12 Americans. Vice Admiral Mitscher's victory provided conclusive proof of the warplane's dominance not only of the sky but of the sea. The age of the battleship was officially over. The irony was complete. Yamato was commissioned 1 week after Pearl Harbor, the very attack that demonstrated aircraft carriers, not battleships, would dominate future naval warfare. Japan's ultimate expression of battleship power was obsolete the day she was launched. Navy Minister Yonai, with downcast eyes, reported that Operation Tengo had failed. When Emperor Hirohito asked about the fleet, the minister spoke the truth. There was no fleet, he told the emperor. The Imperial Japanese Navy had ceased to exist. The sinking became a metaphor for the end of the Japanese Empire. A vessel bearing Japan's poetic name, Yamato, Great Harmony, the ancient word for the nation itself, had disappeared beneath the waves. Popular depictions portray her destruction as a heroic but also pointless and futile sacrifice. The mission achieved nothing militarily. It did not delay the American advance by a single day or save a single soldier on Okinawa. It succeeded only as a gesture, a demonstration that the Navy would sacrifice itself as completely as the Army's kamikaze pilots. In August 1985, Japanese researchers located Yamato's wreck using submersibles lying in 1,120 feet of water, approximately 180 miles southwest of Kyushu. The ship lies in 2 main sections. The bow portion is upright with the golden chrysanthemum crest still visible. The stern section is inverted. The massive main gun turrets lie scattered on the seafloor where they fell as the ship capsized. The Yamato Museum opened in Kure on April 23, 2005, the 60th anniversary of the sinking, featuring a 1/10 scale model of the battleship built by the same company that constructed the original. In 2015, the museum established a sister relationship with the USS Missouri Memorial at Pearl Harbor. Memorial services continue. On April 7, 2025, approximately 300 people, including bereaved families and Maritime Self-Defense Force members, gathered in Kure for the 80-year anniversary commemoration. The 1974 anime space battleship Yamato, known in the West as Star Blazers, reimagined the sunken battleship as a spaceship saving Earth from alien annihilation. The series became one of the most influential anime ever made, spawning numerous sequels and remakes through 2025. It allowed post-war Japan to reclaim a heroic narrative around the ship, transforming a symbol of defeat into one of redemption and sacrifice. Operation Tengo offers multiple interlocking narratives. The mission achieved nothing except killing 4,137 men. Almost every officer involved knew it would fail. They executed it anyway because the Emperor was watching. Young sailors drinking together the night before death. Captain Ariga eating biscuits as his ship sinks. Ishida circling his house one last time. Fukumoto asking why me for 50 years. The greatest battleship ever built. Annihilated in under 2 hours by weapons that didn't exist when she was designed. Proof that the battleship era had ended. A ship bearing Japan's ancient name disappearing into the sea as the empire collapsed. The Navy's final gesture reduced to ashes and a mushroom cloud visible 120 miles away. Men who lived when 3,055 of their shipmates died, haunted by the faces of the wounded they left behind, carrying the memory across 80 years. The story of Yamato is remembered in Japan the way Texans remember the Alamo, a noble doomed last stand. But unlike the Alamo, it produced no tactical delay, no strategic advantage, nothing except a demonstration that even a nation's greatest weapon could be sacrificed on the altar of honor. In the end, Operation Tengo was exactly what its critics said, a futile waste of lives dressed in the rhetoric of glorious death.